introduction. It is indeed a pleasure for me to join you today and happy to note that everyone is in good health. I commend GIPA for organizing this very important webinar. The topic is indeed very interesting and pertinent to young Indonesian professionals and students of the 21st century. Friends, colleagues, in a globalized, interconnected world we live today, many economic opportunities exist beyond state borders and beyond nationalities. At the same time, with COVID-19, not only we faced with unprecedented challenges, but also opportunities, including new sectors of employment enabled by technological advances and digitalization. The world today is in dire need of a healthy, productive, and state-of-the-art machinery to accelerate global economic recovery, to recover better and stronger in a post-pandemic COVID world. Against this backdrop, I believe the momentum is high for Indonesia. Why? Indonesia is blessed with young, smart, creative, productive, and competitive human resources. They represent a lucrative demographic dividend, 70% of our current population, the backbone of the country's future, particularly in realizing Indonesia's Vision 2045. A sovereign, advanced, fair, and prosperous Indonesia, a high-income country by 2045, the world's fourth largest by OECD's estimate, which will mark a great milestone 100 years since the founding of our nation. To this end, there are many reasons to be optimistic. The Indonesian government has committed a lot of resources for human resources development through digital technology, vocational education, and partnership with friendly countries. Human resources development is a key development pillar which will contribute to economic development, political stability, and quality of life. In this regard, one of the embassy's main duty, Indonesian embassies in London, is to capitalize this potential fully and optimally through cooperation with our international partners, particularly in the UK and Ireland. Friends, having said that, this webinar is very useful for so many reasons. To learn from the experts and professionals, to share experiences, to expand network, and for me personally, to stay productive amidst winter and lockdown in London. It also serves as an excellent platform to identify best practices in competing in the global talents pool, as well as to adjust ourselves to the new realities of a post-pandemic world. What I can share from my own experience is that Indonesians are still underrepresented at global fora, such as UN Secretariat and many UN specialized agencies. This has to change, and I am very keen to listen from our professionals with their vision is of a post-pandemic skill set. Beyond this, this is a clear testament of the traditional Indonesian spirit of gotong royong, collectiveness to achieve a common goal. Indeed, by helping each other to succeed, especially when we are abroad, we will become stronger as a country and nation. With that, I encourage you to stay till the end and make the most of this event. Be curious, ask questions, share your stories, success and your success stories, and do not forget, let us do our best to be our beloved country and nation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks, Pak Desra, for a very warm welcome remarks to everyone here. And again, thanks for support from the Indonesian Embassy in London and yourself, the Overseas Professional Hub in the UK, YIPA UK, as well as at the global level here at GIPA. Very much deeply appreciated. Now, allow me to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Agus Sartono, MBA. He has been actively involved in shaping Indonesia's human capital development policy for the last 13 years. 11 of these 13 years he spent as Deputy Minister under 3 different coordinating ministers at Kemenko PMK or Kemenko Kesra. During his post in Canberra 2007 as Education Attaché, he learned a lot how Australia's government attract young potential students by providing scholarship. Therefore, when he was promoted to the Director of Planning and International Relations at Ministry of Education, he proposed to the minister the idea of such an endowment fund, leading to the establishment of education endowment funds that benefit many of Indonesians, many of you, many of us over the recent years. He was born in Purworejo, Central Java. Then he graduated with cum laude at UGM, pursued an MBA at North Carolina, USA, then a doctorate degree from Department of Finance at the Innsbruck University, Austria and Europe. Now, a lot of story of his life story. After this event, we'll be sharing his book for your virtual gifts for the ebook titled Jejak Sang Guru Memeluk Kisah Agus Sartono. But before that, why don't we hear directly from Deputy Minister for Education, Quality Improvement and Religious Moderation at Kemenko PMK, Prof. Agus Sartono. Over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Stephen Marcelino, for a very nice introduction. His Excellency, Ambassador Dextra Percaya, nice to meet you. And my colleagues, the other panels, Mas Adri Arte Meraksa, PhD, and Patricia Suyanto, and other global professionals. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitations to address Indonesian professionals working across G20s and ASEAN, as well as Indonesian students studying abroad and at home in Indonesia. I'm honored to represent the Coordinating Minister of Human Development and Cultural Affairs, Her Excellency Professor Muhajir Effendi. Unfortunately, due to a very tight schedule, he's unable to join us, and he just visited another areas which was affected by the disaster recently. He conveyed his high appreciation to GIPA for its efforts in convening great speakers in today's Going Global series, going into global companies and international organizations. In my role as deputy at the Kemenko PMK, especially for the last 11 years, I look after a number of priorities which revolve around designing the human capital development policies. The portfolio is to oversee the Minister of Cultures and Education, the Minister of Religions, and the Minister of Higher Education and Research, especially the Minister of Higher Education and Research for the last 5 years. And my final thesis when I joined the Indonesian Resilience Institute was I wrote the importance to have the Ministry of Higher Education and Research in 2013. And thanks in 2014, the President Jokowi just established the Minister of Higher Education and Research. But unfortunately, in the second term, the higher education is back combined with the Minister of National Education. But I'm still happy because the emerge of the new Director General in the Ministry of National Education, which is the Director General of Vocational, in which I continuously support since 2015, especially when we are talking about the human development. His Excellency, Ambassador, and all the participants, let me share that back in September 27, when I was as an education attaché in Canberra, I organized the International Student Conference, which were attended by more than 200 participants at the time was. The same event as APEC in Sydney, and also attended by 9 ministers. And thanks to that time, all the participants were welcomed by the President Yudhoyono. And one of the recommendations is that we propose to the ministers, this is very urgently needed. Indonesia has a kind of education endowment funds. And 6 months later, when I was promoted as the Director of Planning and International Cooperation within the Ministry of National Education, especially exactly in February 2008, then I proposed to the ministers how important it is to have such endowment funds. And thanks, in 2009, 2010, then the endowment fund was established. Until now, was managed by the LPDP. I'm actively involved in designing human capital development policies. And as Marcelino mentioned, serving the 3 consecutive Menko from Pak Agung Laksono and then Bu Puan Maharani and now the Pak Muhajir Effendi. So similar to some of you, all the participants, I spent a number of years abroad for my MBA in the US and my doctorate degree in Austria. That is where I found the utmost importance of developing global experience overseas. One of the examples is the sector of logistics. At the time was when I'm studying in US, I observed the UPS and GP and FedEx and other logistic companies become one of the cases were discussed during the courses. And similarly, the mobile banking has already been highly developed in Austria in early 2000s. And from these observations and drawn into the current time frame, I realized that Indonesia is somewhat 30 years lag behind the other countries. So when we are talking about human capital development, let me share some slides. Marcelo, you may help me to, or the operators over there, to share the slides, please. Let me a little bit divert talking about the developing Indonesian human capitals. Next slide, please. His Excellency and participants, as we all know that we are having the, this too fast, I think. Please, the first slide, please. Yeah. Yep. As I know that now we have the demographic bonus, but we're also facing the first slide, I guess. Yeah, here we go. Okay. As the ambassador mentioned that we are having the demographic incentive at the time. And as I discussed earlier with the chairmen, that for the next 20, 30 years, Indonesia hopefully will harvest this demographic incentive, in which 70% of the populations are the productive age. But those incentives also bring all the challenges in the life corners. At least you could recognize that by 2045, the number of population will increase at least to become around 3,060 millions, with the fertility rates down to 1.9. At the same time, having a good health facilities and education improvement qualities, the life expectancy getting longer and longer. Of course, those longer life expectancy also bring another challenges, meaning that those 70% of populations might become the elder people. So this is also put the Indonesian on the big challenge as well. And also the number of elderlies is estimated to become 42.8 million by 2045. And the dependency ratio will decrease a little bit to 40.2%. And the toughest challenge by 2045 is that the residents live in urban areas will increase significantly to around 69%. Those are the challenges that we have to tackle since now. And we are talking about the demographic incentive. In reality, we are having not as good as what we expected, because in terms of labor force, 65% of the labor force only earn the junior high school degrees or just finished at the junior high school. And another 23% just graduate from senior high school, meaning that around 89, 90% workforce just earn a senior high school, and less than 13% graduate from university. From this single graph alone, we can draw that when we are talking about the human capital development, at least need more than 20 years to shifting from low educated labor force to high educated labor force. So at least need 20 years. And the black bar on this graph indicate that the number of labor force who graduate from elementary schools declining for the next 20 years. This also sent a message that the government of Indonesia have to prepare the transformation for agriculture sectors, because otherwise for the next 20 years there are not enough resources to work in agriculture, and it will make the dependency to the import goods become bigger and bigger. This is the message from this single picture. So again, when we talk about the human capital development, we have to be consistent, and it took at least 20 years. Meanwhile, the challenge, let me please to move on to the next pages. Here is the challenge. You may all aware, I do believe you already noticed the slide. This is the future of education adapted from the World Economic Forums. Yeah, the challenge on human resource development, that at least there are 85 million job lost in the next 5 years, but it doesn't mean that those 85 job loss will not be replaced by another ones. 85% job position over the world will be replaced by sophisticated machines, and 50% job title over the world will use automatization. This is why, as I discussed earlier, that the challenge of the government is tougher and tougher, because at least we have to provide at least 11 million job opportunity for the new job seekers as well as the unemployment. Let me jump to the last human capital development cycles. Marcelino, please. Yeah. Here, His Excellency and all the participants, here's the slide, the concept in which I try to develop for the last 4 or 5 years. When we are talking about human capital development, please keep in mind that the human capital development is a never-ending process. So when we are talking to develop the human capital, it's a never-ending process, because the generations come and go. Every day, new baby born, and every day some people just pass away. So what the government did to handle the human capitals? when we are talking about human capital, we have to focus on an early stage, what we call it. So when the prenatal stage, meaning that the new couple, before they get married, they have to know what are the responsibility of becoming the parents, and they have to know the importance of the first 1,000 days of the new life, meaning since this wife get pregnant until the baby born for the 2 years old. They have to know and they have to take care with the sufficient food. Otherwise, they will have the stunting babies. This is not a good for the nation, because the social cost of the stunting babies is quite unaffordable. And you may know that the 30% of the new baby born is stunting. And those state then continues under early child care education. And when we are able to manage the first two states, then of course we are expecting to have a good student later on the primary school as well as junior and senior high school. Some of the students graduate from senior high school, then as I mentioned in the beginning, 1.8 people have to go to the labor market, simply because some of them may not have the economic capacity, or some of them simply because not able to go to the university because of the capacity of university itself. Yes, at the moment, the government try to encourage the university to enlarge the capacity, the enrollment rate by 10 to 20%. But we also realize that it's not good because we have to think also about the quality. Okay, then some graduate from university combined with this graduate from senior high school, then go to the labor markets as categorized as the productive age, and some of them become the elderly people. We do hope that we are able to shifting these populations and to increase the productivity by increasing the education quality, because we do believe that if the education level increases, the national productivity will increase as well. And the next consequence is we do hope that those people are able to generate the incomes more than enough to support their life, and later on they are able to make saving. And nationally, then Indonesia will have a bigger national saving, because it's also important to support the other people later on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Kemenko PMK, as I mentioned to you, also have the main responsibility to continuously support this all the agenda, supporting from the early child until the elderly people. Indonesia, as we know, that at the time also underrepresented in many global companies and international organization with global outreach and impact. To face this issue, the government is developing at the moment Indonesia talent management program. I also involved in the talent management program. The government hope that this talent management, as I do believe that most of the participants in this conference are categorized as the talented people, are able to make Indonesia to perform leapfrogging and advancement in various sectors. Also, the most risk that we want to avoid is the middle income trap, because we do believe having the critical mass of the talent people, we are able to avoid those traps. Therefore, we need to double or even triple Indonesian talents with the global experience to unlock the nation global competitiveness. And this is the key priority for Indonesian human capital development. So yes, we will continuously improve the quality of education in Indonesia. And at the same time, we also send the young, bright students abroad. Hopefully, the next 10, 15 years, we will harvest from this talent student. Kemenko PMK, and I would like to commend the GIPA as a key global secretariat who has worked very closely with more than 15 overseas professional hubs across America regions, and then regions and APEC regions. And GIPA has championed and provided practical strategies on especially the first one, how Indonesian students abroad can transition into professional organizations. And the second, how professional can transition into executive future business leaders that will head big corporations around the world. Keep up your great work in championing human capital development. Kemenko PMK will be very pleased to continue in supporting and collaborating with you in 2021 and beyond to enhance Indonesian human capital development. I want to close this keynote remark with some call to act for two groups of people. For those who are abroad, after graduating from your studies, consider working abroad before going back to Indonesia. Today, learn from professional success stories and implement the strategies in breaking into this reputable institution. Gain this global experience while you can implement all the skill. And when you're ready, just come back. The door is always open. No matter where you live or work, you can always contribute for Indonesia. Nationalism is not a measure by where you were, but nationalism is measured by your heart attached to Indonesia. Again, no matter where you are, I do hope your heart and your passion is still with Indonesia. For those of you in Indonesia, you can play your next move today and how you can study abroad with the help of scholarship, or following many others who are able to study at great universities abroad. Studying at university will open up your mind, your views, and your thoughts. Then I think about what sort of careers you'd like to do after completing your higher educations, so you can start building up the relevant skill from today. Learn from your professional on what must be done. Prepare your path in going global. Shoot for the moon, and let's see where you get to. Imagine you can be like many professional members working abroad in 1 or 2 or 3 years time from now. No time to waste. That's right. I do hope my message is loud and clear. Thank you. And I do believe all of the participants, you're part of the most talented people of Indonesia. And you'll be part of the Indonesian talented people. And I do believe you'll be enjoy your time. And I'm expecting the next 20 years, you'll be sitting on the driver's seats. No matter who you are, you may become the parliament members, minister, or even president or CEO of reputable companies. Hope everyone stay well and safe. And congratulations to all of you. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, Professor Agus Sartono. It's amazing to hear your perspectives on human capital development and how we all can play a part. GIPA certainly will be delighted to be able to continue supporting your efforts, Kemenko PMK supports from all of the 15 plus overseas professional hubs across the 3 regions where GIPA operates. On that note, if many of you interested in supporting GIPA and getting to know more, would like to get involved with the GIPA's Global Secretariat, it's quite timely because after this event, we'll officially launch our open recruitment push where we've experienced a huge amount of growth in recent years, and then you can be part of us, especially those student leaders with strong track record in organizational experience. Details around the open recruitment for GIPA will be sent out after the event, along with the virtual ebook gift that Deputy Minister Prof. Agus has kindly shared to all of the attendees. So stay tuned on GIPA social media channels, GIPA_ID for more. Now, we are after hearing welcoming remarks and keynote remarks, I would like to introduce our moderator as we move on to the panel session. Teuku Arki Maraksa, PhD. He's head of Americas region and head of professional development COE at GIPA. Arki is responsible for covering GIPA's outreach in the Americas region and spearheading a center of excellence on professional development. Within his capacity at this COE, Arki develops programs targeted for Indonesian students and professionals to enhance their career trajectory. These programs are rolled out at a number of overseas professional hubs across the globe with some best practices shared across the network. Arki also co-founded and leads the Indonesian Professional Association IPA in New York since 2017. Currently, Arki works as the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Model Governance within the risk function of American Express New York. Arki has a doctorate degree in Economic Geography and International Business, and he previously taught at the State University of New York, US, and Singapore campus for business and international trade programs. Today, he will also be facilitator to guide the panelists, not just a moderator, guide the panelists and audience in today's interactive discussion on career prep and ultimately getting into global companies and international organizations overseas. Because he has spent 3 years teaching at State University of New York, where he also performed successful career coaching to hundreds of students. And through his capacity at IPA New York, he and his team host an annual career coaching series to ensure that students can get the best insights for job hunting, job search in the US and overseas. Now, over to you, Arki.
Thanks, Stephen. And I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. So I think we're going to go to the main event where a lot of us, including the panelists and speakers, will share their experience directly to you. Before that, I do have a quick note that I want to share to why this program is important, to why the Going Global series is something that we want to continue and create an impact to many of us, including you audiences. So first things first, we are expecting Indonesia to be the top 5 economy by 2050. This is based on report that's provided by Goldman Sachs and PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. But the main issue is that there is an underdeveloped workforce talent pipeline that exists right now, and potentially this can impact Indonesia's future. The talent gap is widening. By 2030, Indonesia is projected to have a shortage of 3.8 million skilled talents with good education and, most importantly, global exposure. And if that happens, we are likely to lose $480 billion in economic costs. And this is something that we want to push towards our future in terms of trajectory. And as Patricia mentioned as well, we have Vision 2045, and we have to make sure that we have all the support from Indonesians' human capital aspect and talent and professional to make sure that we become one of the top economy in the world. So from our position at GIPA, especially in my role as the professional development COE lead, we want to help students to consider their careers in a global trajectory. So we have a section that we want to push students to professionals, and then we will have a section that we want to support professionals into becoming global executives around the world. And how do we actually do that? How can we do it? What's interesting is that GIPA, we have relationship and partnerships with various professional hubs, as Stephen Marcelino mentioned, around the world. And within these hubs, there are hundreds and thousands of Indonesian professionals working in top companies and international organizations who are truly willing to share their experience and provide insights to how can you reach a goal or positions such as themselves. And what we have here is that we have amazing speakers that we have today, and they'll be sharing directly to you what are the tips, tricks, secrets into becoming successful in the global stage. So our focus, particularly, is to ensure that especially today, what we want to spend time on is that we want to share with you what is needed if you want to access top companies, such as Fortune 500 companies or global companies that are renowned around the world, and how do you prepare yourself when it comes to joining international organizations such as the United Nations or World Bank, IMF, and so on. I think as an addition, what we're going to do today is actually we're going to we're going to have an interactive discussion with a couple of drills on what is the most important preparation. This is in the context of resume, cover letter, what is the interview process, and what is the execution process. To that end, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. So we have three. I'll begin with the first one, Patricia. So Patricia is currently a senior consultant at Deloitte San Francisco. And in her line of work, she focuses on information governance and e-discovery. And as a consultant, she helps multinational clients solve their big problems, such as profitability and any other areas where they need improvements. Patricia has a Bachelor's of Administration degree in finance and information management from Boston University. And currently, she's also part of the Indonesian Professional Association San Francisco board member. And then second, we have Alda Ardelia, who is a venture capital associate at International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group. Alda focuses on disruptive technologies, accelerator, VC, and growth equity investment across Central, Eastern Europe, South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa. Prior to IFC, Alda has participated in various financial institutions. She also has an MBA from Rotman University of Toronto. And lastly, on our speakers list, we have Nancy Amelia, Assistant Vice President in Bank of America, London. She is actually, while working in a bank, she's actually a software engineer. So she works a lot in the capabilities aspect of the bank. So she revolves building trading applications for credit desk and specializes in derivatives product. On top of that, Nancy is also part of the YIPA, Young Indonesian Professionals Association UK's operations director. And I think to that end, I'd like to probably have the speakers to also say hi. Maybe I'll begin with Patricia. Patricia, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can.
Sounds good. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so everybody can focus. So Patricia, I think before we jump into this, we would like to get to know a little bit more about you. Like maybe in a minute or two, can you tell us what do you exactly do at work, and maybe tell us about your hobby too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hi, everyone. I hope you're all staying safe and doing well. As Arki mentioned, I am a consultant at one of the big four accounting firms, and our clients are all part of the Fortune 500 list. In terms of my day to day, I am part of the project management team. And as a project manager, we plan, initiate, execute, and also deliver results. I also work within the broad forensic services umbrella, specifically within electronic discovery to help our clients go through legal proceedings such as litigation or government investigations. I handle all stages throughout a project's lifecycle and communicate with both internal teams and also the client to help them with their needs. In terms of what I do for fun, I love to cook and I've tried to make homemade versions of my favorite restaurants here in quarantine. I've also enjoyed going on small hikes to explore the views of California.
Sounds good, Patricia. I think it'll be interesting. Maybe one day we can try out your cooking, or maybe you do a session on cooking. But let's move on to our next speaker, Alda. Alda,
Hi.
you there?
Yes. Thank
What's
you,
up?
Arki. Yeah. Thanks for having me and hope all stay safe. So in terms of what I do day to day, it's like, venture capital stuff. So I start with like deal sourcing and then do the due diligence, try to select like the best investment opportunities in terms of the startups or venture capital funds. We also invest in the accelerator, incubator. So we kind of like have a lot of asset class, but still in the disruptive technology space. And then also managing existing portfolio across, global in the US, in Southeast Asia, in MENA, and also in Central Eastern Europe. So that's basically like the range of our investment are in place. And I like to, like do Zumba, traveling for fun, also exploring like new coffee place and new restaurant. But currently I'm focusing on getting my Zumba instructor license. So later I can hopefully teach Zumba.
Sounds good, Alda. It seems like you're going to change the world one movement at a time with the
And
Zumba
yeah,
moves.
with the Zumba move, yeah.
Yeah. So let's invite Nancy now. So Nancy, if you can tell us a little bit about what you do at Bank of America.
So hi everyone. I'm actually a software engineer. So on a day-to-day basis, I mostly write code and also serve the desk. Basically, if they have any issues with any of their applications, if suddenly anything goes wrong, it's it's under what my team does. Yeah, I think I couldn't say much. Like software engineers, we mostly write code. Like that's our day-to-day. We do manage like projects. I think when you're higher up the level, but yeah. Apart from that, what I do for fun, I like to try like a lot of new things, like new random things from like practicing yoga, which I started during this lockdown, and to things like I think playing the piano. So yeah, that's what I kind of do for fun.
Sounds good, Nancy. So jadi gini aja ya, we're gonna go over a bunch of topics. Terus we'll have a very casual discussion. Untuk audience atau penonton, we have a question button. Jadi kalau mau tanya pertanyaan itu bisa langsung ditulis pertanyaannya, and there's an upvote button. And nanti selama acara ini kita akan coba jawab satu persatu. Di saat kita sedang fokus terhadap topik tersebut, cuman ya mungkin again for the speakers this is a casual discussion, jadi kita ngobrol-ngobrol, but then I think what would be nice is that from all of you to share what is yang penting banget, yang kadang-kadang misalnya dari Indonesian students or Indonesian young professionals tend to make maybe mistakes or things that they need to improve. Itu yang penting. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to focus on. Like share the tips and tricks yang nggak ada yang biasanya nggak dibahas di textbook, nggak dibahas di kelas, and you only see this when you have started working. So I'm going to start sharing my screen basically to show everybody what's the menu for today. And if you can see it loud and if you can see it clearly over there, jadi kita bakal bahas resume and cover letter, kita akan bahas interviewing, kita akan bahas execution, and ultimately at the end we will have some live Q&A as well. Tapi kalau ada pertanyaan, go ahead, bisa langsung ditanya sekarang. Nanti kita akan coba jawab satu persatu at the same time. Jadi, tapi sebelum kita masuk ke topik resume, interviewing, and cover letter, ada beberapa hal yang kita ingin share juga, karena ini penting. So, the slide here, it will say important things to consider. Dan dalam important things to consider, there are 3 elements. Pertama, itu hiring cycle. This is something very, very important, karena most global companies, international corporations, dan juga international organization, UN and World Bank, mereka itu ada timeline. Mereka itu ada waktu di mana ada job opening dan aplikasinya mesti disubmit sebelum waktu itu habis. So very, very important, something yang mesti dipikirin. I would recommend if you're very, very interested juga, you can, I would say take notes, bikin catatan untuk from this acara. We will reveal a lot of very, very interesting things that's going to be very, very helpful. Number 2. Very, very important is also to build your experience and leadership activity. Ini kenapa penting? Karena nanti waktu kita membuat resume, waktu sedang interview, kalian or everybody will want to make sure that informasi yang ada itu sesuai dengan job description-nya. Dan yang terakhir itu crafting relevant skill. Nah ini lumayan penting juga dan malah mungkin paling penting karena contohnya misalnya mau daftar kerja sebagai software engineer di perusahaan teknologi kayak Facebook atau Google dan lain-lain. Of course, you need to know how to code. You need to know how to write your code, etc. It's not like you're going to magically get the job just by doing the interview and doing a good resume. So there will be some testing that is done. Jadi ini sebelum we start, I want to emphasize these important 3 things. And nanti kita juga bakal deep dive untuk segmen-segmen ini. Now, let's go to the next segment or the first one. And before that, ini adalah sebuah konsep yang I would like for all the participants to also understand. Ini bakal dibahas nih. Ini the topic of the day will cover a lot on STAR: situation, task, action, and result. This is a framework untuk membangun resume. This is a framework untuk interviewing, dan kemungkinan besar ini adalah ekspektasi dari semua company, semua international organization dalam segi menjawab interviews, dalam segi menulis. Ini adalah sebuah elemen yang sangat dibutuhkan. Nanti kita bakal deep dive lebih dalam lagi, apa maksudnya. So, let's go to the first topic. Focusing on resume. So, apa sih resume? So, resume actually, it showcases your understanding of what the employer is looking from you and whether you have the relevant skills and experience needed to succeed in the position. Kalau di Indonesia itu biasanya dibilangnya CV. Nah, perbedaannya ada sedikit perbedaan antara di Indonesia dan di luar negeri. Cuman dari segi kami hari ini yang mau kita sharing lebih dalam itu adalah 4 hal penting. Pertama adalah structure. Kedua itu adalah on quantification. Quantification nanti akan dijelasin lebih dalam lagi. Ketiga itu adalah on leadership and accomplishment, dan terakhir itu grammar. So to that end, I would like to start engaging with the speakers here. Let me unshare my screen quickly. So first things first, maybe I'll ask Alda. Alda, you've worked both in Indonesia and overseas, right? What do you see in terms of major difference antara CV sama resume, ekspektasinya di Indonesia dan luar negeri?
One thing that I kind of like notice is how long is the CV. Kayak kalau di Indo itu kayak 2 page kayak nggak apa-apa kan. Tapi kalau misalnya specifically di US ya atau di Canada, biasa kita cuman pengen lihatnya kayak 1 page resume. So it's like short and sweet. Jadi kayak langsung hit what's the most important. Karena kayak HR-nya, if I talk to HR, they cannot really see the all things in the resume. They just like hit the key points. If you cannot really grasp the attention of the HR like at your first page, you are like done. Karena dia sort out kayak thousands of the resume, right? So yeah, kayak 2 pages is like kind of too much for US and Canada job application, I think.
And I think ini juga the same thing di other European countries ya. Usually mereka maunya 1 halaman aja, nggak terlalu banyak dan bisa dikompres. And what's interesting is that mungkin ada 2 perbedaan lagi. Kalau profesional biasa profesional industri 1 halaman. Tapi kalau akademia, kalau emang mau jadi profesor atau pengajar gitu, emang itu biasanya emang banyak halamannya karena mesti di-list kan semua publikasi dan tulisannya. Nah, I think pertanyaan berikutnya yang I think pengen di-share itu kayak sebenarnya dalam CV itu dalam strukturnya, dalam poin pertama yang tadi di-share itu struktur, kayak apa sih yang perlu ditulis dalam CV, dalam resume supaya benar-benar top notch?
Ini buat gua lagi.
Boleh Alda or Patricia or Nancy kalau ada yang mau jawab.
Okay, probably I can start. Situation. Jadi kan tadi udah sempat disebutin STAR ya, situation, task, action, result. Menurut gue yang paling penting di resume or CV itu how you quantify your result with the glimpse or your actually what actions you actually take. Jadi kayak itu kan karena CV itu 1 page, it's a very scarce resource. Kayak achievement kalian pasti kan banyak banget kan yang mau ditampilin. Jadi kita harus kayak pilih mana yang actionable items yang benar-benar mau di highlight, and then how you quantify the result. For example, like revenue growth by 50%. I think that kind of the most items that usually missing in the like Indonesian resume.
I totally agree with that, dan my friends and I yang kita semua kayak hiring leader or pernah interview orang di for major global companies, biasanya emang kan kita biasanya suka refer teman-teman Indonesia buat masuk gitu, atau sharing-sharing lah, ada job opening misalnya di kota US atau Eropa. Terus biasanya first round tuh ini buat for the audience juga gitu, very very important. Kalau bisa taruh angkanya yang seperti Alda bilang, revenue growth atau angka impact kerjaan kalian. Dan juga kayak any number yang bisa disambungkan terhadap achievement, it's very very important. And I think to that end, what I like to invite Patricia. I think Patricia, you're in consulting, right? Jadi I think quantification is very very important. Like, can you share a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think, in terms of the general resume that you're going to have, it's very important to have the right structure. It's important to have the right grammar. And I think all of that is just a standard. That's how you're going to have somebody read your resume. But on top of having the right structure and having the right grammar and making sure you proofread everything, I think what sets you apart is to make sure you quantify, because there's a lot of times where you would be doing the exact same thing as somebody else. So how are you going to set yourself apart? So like, for example, for quantification, I can say that I've developed this quality control method that reduced the error rate by 2%. Something like that is quantifiable. And when someone says, I did a lot of X, what a lot means to me is very different to what a lot means to you. So if you can quantify it using numbers, and you've kind of let them know that this is what I mean by a lot.
Yeah, thanks Patricia. That's very very insightful. And maybe like another thing yang tadi ditulis juga itu adalah gimana sih caranya kita bisa craft leadership and accomplishment. Gimana caranya kita bisa make sure di resume itu waktu kita job application tuh kayak udah tertulis semuanya, atau solid gitu. Maybe to this one I'll invite Nancy. Nancy, what's your take on leadership and accomplishment supaya benar-benar bagus banget resume dan langsung dapat interview?
I think kalau personally leadership and accomplishment itu, when you are, especially if you're students, when you're doing your degree, try to do like a lot of like other extracurricular activities, kayak misalnya join part of the student council atau join part of organizations, because I feel like that your experiences, kayak your leadership experiences, your outside of like your class is what can help you not only with your CV but also with your interviews, because when they start asking questions, itu nanti that's where you will get your answers. And I think jadi be aware of all the opportunities available pertama-tama ya. Jadi misalnya if you're currently a student, cari tahu what are the opportunities are there available for you out there. Jadi when you know this, then you can start like sort of like narrowing your focus on, these are relevant to what I want to be and these are not relevant to what I want to be. But first you need to be aware. So like things like internship opportunities, spring insights, apalagi ya, kayak misalnya company event, like I think those are very important for you.
Thanks Nancy. I think that's very very important, dan I think pesan untuk teman-teman, terutama student gitu, kalau masih kuliah, make sure you participate in organizations. Kalau di luar negeri ada PPI, di Indonesia ada BEM, di US ada Permias, or bisa juga masuk ke organisasi lokal lainnya. Ini sangat penting karena mereka pengen lihat gimana student itu nilainya bisa bagus atau belajar yang sesuai dengan target pekerjaannya, tapi di luar itu mereka adalah orang-orang yang comfortable atau nyaman untuk menjadi pemimpin. Karena biasanya kalau kita kerja ini, I think Patricia, Alda, Nancy, we have to work together, right? Like in the big team biasanya, dan in those team tuh kayak mesti bisa nge-lead dan very very critical sebagai orang. It doesn't matter gitu, kayak you're Indonesian or not, but you will be leading a team, and most likely timnya juga orang-orang internasional lain. It's going to be a global team that you be leading. Nah, ini mungkin sebelum saya lanjut ke slide berikutnya atau topik berikutnya, ini ada beberapa pertanyaan ya. Jadi akan kita coba jawab juga at the same time. Mungkin yang pertama ini, yang pertanyaan yang muncul itu ada dari Iqbal Akbar. So pertanyaannya, sometimes numbers are confidential. we should not disclose that in the CV or interview. So is there any way out on providing this? I think probably I have my answer, but I would like to first invite the speaker dulu gitu. Yang anybody want to take on this? Kalau misalnya angkanya confidential nih, tapi gimana caranya bisa dimasukin ke CV kalau misalnya mau apply pekerjaan lain?
I think in my experience, kalau misalnya kita mau quantification, itu nomornya nggak usah yang confidential. Misalnya kalau misalnya kita bilang, oh, you know, I worked with a company that and that project generates a revenue of $50 million. We can just say that $50 million, but we don't have to say the name of the company. So that's how you make that specific company confidential, and you're not going to let anybody know who your client is, because at most times we don't want to tell people who our client is. So we can also do it that way. And in another way, quantification doesn't necessarily mean an external number. It could also be an internal number. Let's say, you know, I worked and trained 5 people on a monthly basis. Those numbers are not necessarily confidential. So you can kind of go around it that way by using internal numbers versus external numbers.
Yeah, probably just to add also, like you also can kind of like a personal achievement, personal KPI, like led 3 people in the team to achieve certain KPI by improving like efficiency by 200%. Like that's kind of a growth rate that probably it's not really confidential, because that's your own personal achievement, like own personal KPI. Are we losing Arki?
I think there's
Arki, you're like, I think.
issue. Yeah.
Arki, I think you're a little breaking there.
Yep.
Can you hear us okay now? Yeah, I think you're back.
Hopefully I'm back. So hopefully everybody can hear me clearly. Let me know if things are going a little bit choppy again on my side. I'm gonna blame the internet provider. So anyway, I think that those are very, very good answers, Patricia and Alda. To that end, I'm going to go into the next area, which is we're going to spend actually a little bit to review a fictitious resume. And I would like to hear what the panelists see here, given that they're professionals and they've worked many, many years. And I would like to hear them like, what is wrong with this resume? And I think buat audience di rumah gitu, kalian bisa lihat juga gitu, kayak apa aja sih yang kita perhatiin in this context. So let me share my screen quickly. Okay, let me know guys kalau udah kelihatan.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so ini fictitious resume dari Jane Doe. Jangan GR kalau namanya Jane, jadi bukan. It's not. Ini hanya persamaan aja. So going to the next one, kita bakal deep dive nih. Kita bakal deep dive to the top of the resume. Jane Doe. Ada education, ada about, ada contact. Ini maybe first things first, apa sih ini yang kayaknya agak-agak apa tuh perlu diperbaiki dari area ini? So ini terserah whoever wants to go first. Patricia, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say first things first. In US resumes, we don't show our date of birth or our age because nobody really cares about that. Jadi date of birth sama age-nya lebih baik dihapus aja. Terus usually kalau di atas setelah Jane Doe itu you talk about you write about your contact information. Jadi Jane Doe at Gmail, terus phone number, and also your LinkedIn profile would be a good replacement.
Yeah, and then if we want to talk about the education, I think we can like explore and like, you know, kayak nambahin content a little bit instead of only like mentioning the university names and your GPA, which is good. We can talk about your extracurricular here. I put my summer internship actually under the education. So, but it depends on if you want to highlight it under the experience, which we could talk about it later. That's also up to you, but I'm more comfortable like talking about the highlighted classes that I took. For example, I want to apply for venture capital a job. I will highlight like, okay, I took like blockchain class, I took like fintech class, something like that, with like, you know, just highlight the relevant school experience that might help you get a job. Terus kayak I think cum laude predicate it's not the right you know how to present cum laude, so probably just like GPA 3.8 in the bracket cum laude. So yeah, that's what I see from this.
I think just to add on a bit, I feel like if I look at this CV, I sort of wouldn't have any like I look at the universities and I kind of not know like I can't, like I'm from the UK, so I know kind of like Swansea's in the UK, for example. But then if you're applying to a multinational companies, I think it's probably good to be specific of like where, like Swansea University, UK, like Riau University, Indonesia or something.
Good point, good point. And ini juga I think on the about side-nya juga kayaknya perlu dirapin lagi gitu. Kenapa? It's like summarizing, tapi ini dibikin sebuah rangkuman, tapi mungkin perlu ditambahin kayak so what-nya gitu. Kenapa mau apply pekerjaan ini? Bisa dibilang gitu, saya ingin apply pekerjaan finance, atau disambungin ada satu sentence lagi biar lebih rapi. Okay, let's go to the bottom of the resume now. Kita lihat kontennya sekarang. Ini ada organizational experience. So gimana nih, guys? Like what needs to be improved?
I think for the organizational experience, the very top should be the company name. Jadi ini kan di atasnya matching manager itu, that should be in the bottom. Jadi the company name should be at the top and that should be highlighted, because at the end of the day, they want to know where you've worked, what company it is. So the bolded line should always be the company name.
Yeah, and I think also to add to that, like if you put the company names and it's not like Fortune 500, I usually like put like a very short one-liner explaining about the companies, especially if you are working in Indonesia. Like probably the US company doesn't know like what's the company, but actually it's a kind of a unicorn or a big e-commerce in Indonesia. So you want to highlight it like this is a very good company that you've been working with. Terus kayak responsible for recruitment. Ini it's good for like, you know, the situation task explanation. But as I mentioned earlier, we should like put some achievement in here. So by putting like some quantified result, that will be better, like makes this resume much more better and like grabs the HR attention. So yeah, I think we need to add that too.
Sama, I mean, kalau in my point of view, yang the other one that's missing is also the STAR framework on some of the way the person is answering. On top, it says responsible for recruitment, reception, hospitality of incoming, etc. But there is no like how does it impact the company? How does it give you more information to it in a very brief manner? I think to that end, something that I'd like to raise is that like you have to be very, very meticulous. You have to be very detailed when you're writing your resume, into ensuring that when somebody reads it, they know it is a high quality writing. They know the job information matches to the expectation. And finally, if whenever possible, add in some very, very important component in it that can really differentiate you from one another. One of it is quantification, one of it is the STAR framework, and obviously like crafting the resume to tailor it with your accomplishment so that it suits or fits with the job expectations. I think let me invite Nancy first. Nancy, do you have anything to say?
Sorry, I was gonna say, just to add on a little bit on what you said earlier, like I think you mentioned you need to be very meticulous, right, when it comes to writing CV. So when I first saw the CV, I noticed it, just like things like it has a sort of different structure in the sense that the first one has a little bit of explanations, and then the second and the third one has literally nothing on it. Mm-hmm. And like it doesn't tell you anything basically on that like account stuff of incoming, exchange, regular. I basically do not know what you kind of do in this experience and what you gain there. And then the very tricky thing that like you can call me for being like I don't like too particular, but then this. Sorry, am I breaking?
Nope, nope. You're good.
I can hear echo. Okay, okay, all good. One like very small thing, but I feel that it's a bit particular to myself. Is like how it's structured. As you can see, they put like the company, and then in the first one they put the company and then slash the working date. The second one the same, and then the third one they put the date first and then what they do. I was like, I see an inconsistency like immediately, like to my eyes. And I think lastly is the fact that there's a big white space on the left side. I feel like it's such a waste for you to have such that like such a big gap there, because like you can put so much more, you can explain a little bit more and maximize the space on the side. I think those are the things that I noticed from this screenshot, I guess.
Very, very good point, Nancy. I mean, if you ED, like the fact that the dates and the name of the thing bisa nggak bisa tidur gitu at night, and totally agree. I think very important point is to ensure that if there's a blank space, don't limit blank space, and make sure that it's you optimize your resume appropriately.
Arki, are we losing you again? I think you're breaking a little bit. Oops, I think we just lost Arki, but I'm still in touch with, okay, we're not.
Okay, I'm back. Wow. I'm surprised that the connection is pretty choppy here. That states. So anyway, I assume my screen is no longer sharing. Just want to confirm.
Yeah, I think you're no longer sharing.
Okay, so let me go back into sharing the screen. Okay, is it back on?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. So let's continue. I think everybody raised a very interesting points on the resume and CV. To that end, I would like to answer a question that is listed in here. So one of the question by Jansen is that building competitiveness would be the way for us to shine in the global stage. Question to all panelists: how do you strategically develop your skill set and leverage those skills to stand out among others? What resources do you need to acquire those remarkable competencies? So what's your, anybody want to take a swing at this? How do you build? How do you strategically develop your skill sets?
So I can start. So the first of all, I think we have to
Go
know
ahead.
what game are we going to pursue. So let's say you have the stream role that you have defined. So the first of all, you have to speak with people that have been in the industry and want to help you. So networking, I think that's a very important first step. So you just like, have a cold chat with them, like try to get like 15 minutes chat to understand like the role and what exactly the role require. For example, in my role, MBA is preferred, so I have to prepare for my MBA to get into the role. So it's kind of like know what the game you need to really pursue and like build your skill set. Jadi nggak kayak ngasal aja gitu untuk misalnya pengen kerja software engineer, you have to know like what kind of software engineer, like coding skills that you need to pursue. Terus jadi kalau misalnya chat with Nancy, you will know like what's the secret, and then you will be more strategically like plan your next path to really get closer to what role you want to be. Nancy mau nambahin?
Sorry. I think just to, kalau I personally, in terms of shaping my own skills, I personally, first of all, you need to be realize your what your weaknesses are, and then slowly work on it. So for example, if you're someone who's very shy to speak in public, like unlike, or even like you're someone who's very shy, nervous during all those interviews, and I think you should leverage all the help that you can possibly get, like practice interviewing, but not only with yourself, whether it is like ask a friend to help you with, or I think stuff like what Alda said earlier, like find sort of like a mentor for you, someone who's willing to like guide you to someone who's willing to guide you to be a better person of yourself, but also align with what your career goals are, I guess. So like, yeah, reach out to those who are currently in the positions that you want, and then like get insights from them, I guess. Yeah, Alda has summed it up nicely. Anything to add, Patricia?
Yeah, I think another thing to add is, as Alda and Nancy mentioned, to have a mentor. I think that's going to be very important because as an 18, 19-year-old, you don't really know what you want to do in your career. So there's a high chance that your first job is probably not going to be your forever job. It's not going to determine where your career trajectory is going to be. And that's totally fine, because that's when you figure out what you want to do in life and what you don't want to do in life. And I think in terms of trying to find that certain skill set, let's say you are in a job that you know that you don't want to stay there forever. You could reach out to your manager and you say, hey, I think that I want to be doing things that are more project management based, or I want to do more public speaking, I want to be more client facing. If you reach out to your managers and you talk about what you actually want to do, they could really help you determine, maybe you should join this team instead, and you have them help you by speaking out.
Thanks. Thanks, Patricia. And hopefully I'm back and no more connection issues, but thanks a lot for answering the questions. Let's move on to the next segment. What we want to do now is that, and thanks Wijaya, it's a good idea that we are swapping. Jadi, in case I get logged out, the screen is still sharing. Let's go to the next slide, Wijaya, and let's spend some time on interviewing. So if you click next, and we'll bring out all the let's go to let's on this particular here, thank you, we can see everything. Ini penting. Jadi 4 key elements that we want to talk about. It's not everything, tapi ini yang penting. Number 1 is punctuality, datang on time. Number 2 is the STAR concept, which I have mentioned earlier. Number 3 is asking question. What it means by asking question is that as an interviewee, you have to be able to ask really good questions to people that you are speaking with during your interview. And lastly, very, very important, especially for Indonesians, communication skills. Like how do you talk? What is your body language? How do you project confidence? These are important elements in interview. So I think to that end, I think Vijay, if you don't mind unsharing the screen, and we'd like to have the discussion again with the speakers, and have them share their interesting background in terms of interviewing. So I think punctuality is very, very important. Being Indonesian, jam karet or rubber watch, or what do you call it? Like people are always late, and I'm seeing a prevalent issue as well among Indonesian students into coming in for a global company interview. They come in like very, very close to the interview time. To me, that's a very nerve-wracking experience if that's the case. So maybe if anybody want to share a tip, okay, what happened usually in terms of an interview process that people never think about. I'm thinking of like if you can share some experience that going to the site is not like an A to B process. It's not like direct process. Like what's your take on that?
I think for me, I think one of the cultural things that are different from Indonesia versus the US is they really value punctuality. And I think, there's this saying where, you have to be 5-10 minutes early whenever you go to a US event. And that goes for me. When I was applying for jobs, and specifically at Deloitte, I actually arrived at the site 30 minutes earlier. And because I tend to get really nervous, I just walked around the block and just to try to calm myself down. And I think part of the things that people don't realize is, you're in a new building. Some elevators only go up to the 15th floor, whereas your interview is on the 30th floor. And I actually made that mistake where I think my interview was on the 30th floor, but I went to the wrong elevators. I had to go all the way down, go back to the receptionist and figure that out. So I think you need to have some time prepared to, for in case of any situations that might arise, right? So I think making sure that you arrive on time, if not before, arrive early for an interview, 15 to 20 minutes early. In that way, not only do you feel more prepared, more calm, but you're also not going to piss off any of your interviewers.
Thank you. Thanks, Patricia. I think another thing that is very, very important in terms of interviewing would be the STAR concept. How do we answer questions appropriately? So I think to that end, maybe I'd like to invite Alda. Alda, this is one of the business school important thing, right? Being able to describe STAR. So if you don't mind, maybe like sharing a little bit to the audience, what is STAR and how would you respond to that if this is the general expectation everywhere?
Yeah, so basically, STAR, it's like stands for situation, task, action, result. It's kind of like a fundamental framework that people usually have to know, like especially for their like first interview. Jadi ini sebenarnya a very useful framework for anything, like for resume preparation, for interview. Jadi basically that's help you to be more structured by describing like what exactly the situation, and then the task, which is what are the expectation to you to do something, and then what's your action, and then quantifying the result, as I mentioned earlier. Jadi kalau misalnya di behavioral interview, which is one of the most common type of interview in the US, kayak misalnya tell me about the time when you face a challenge in the workplace, or tell me about the time when you have to show your leadership experience. Jadi STAR framework itu bisa help kita buat kayak hit the milestone, like certain points, to really explain in a more like concisely, briefly, like and hit the spot. Jadi contohnya misalnya kayak kita udah prepare ya story kita ketika kita mau show leadership or show like when the time we have the challenge. Jadi kita bisa mulai dari describing the situation. Kayak contohnya misalnya waktu aku kerja di bank, masalahnya adalah challenge-nya adalah gue harus influence certain party untuk work in a deal, like working with me to achieve certain goal. Jadi kayak gue ceritain masalahnya apa, terus habis itu what I have to be doing. Kayak contohnya gue harus contact 3 other bankers to work with me in like certain syndication loan deal. Jadi untuk contact those people and convince them to work with me, it's like you have to explain that there. And then what's my actions, like, just go to the bank, try to, like influence, like ask them for coffee, and like this is just an example, like random example. You can explain your story better, I believe. But the most important thing is like you kind of like have a key action point that you actually do and contribute to the team and contribute to, make a change in your organization. And as the result, you solve what kind of problem. So that's like a showcase, a strong leadership, and showcase your problem solving skills when they ask you the challenge that you might have faced in your workplace. Jadi hope it's clear.
Very, very, very clear, Alda. And I think one of the panelists brought up a very, very good information. You got to practice this with somebody else. This is not like a personal, I mean, this is a personal development, professional development, but you have to have somebody to practice together with, somebody who has an experience, somebody who can see, who can spot your weaknesses. So I would recommend everybody. I think all of us here in the call create a group of friends back in school to practice. I would recommend the same. You create a group of friends to practice. If you don't have one, there is a lot of online forum to practice interview, surprisingly. And I used to do that as well back then. Now, I think I just want to be mindful to everybody. It's surprisingly like we go on the time like very, very fast. So if it's okay, we would like to add, I know we're targeted to finish 9 o'clock Jakarta time and 3 o'clock UK time. Perhaps we would like just to add another 15 minutes so we can wrap up and cover the most important aspect, which is execution, and then we can jump into the Q&A section. So if that's okay, I think the last part of the interviewing process that I would like to highlight very, very quickly before jumping in, there's a section that we've written, ask questions. What we mean by ask questions is that when you jump into the interview, typically the last 5 minutes, the last 10 minutes, the interviewer will ask you to see they will check on you if you have any questions or not. In this case, this is a very, very important aspect. Ask very, very good question. Ask a question that can impress them. Why is it important? Because if you ask questions such as, you can ask questions specific to the company that nobody else have thought about. It shows that you have done your research. An example of a good question will be, how is the company culture? Like how do you operate? What is the working life balance? And if you can do a little bit of research and ask that specific question, it'll be very, very beneficial for you because it will impress the employers. To that end, I think we'll jump in directly into execution. So if you don't mind, Wijaya, if you can share the screen again quickly supaya bisa kasih lihat audience tuh in terms of execution apa aja sih yang penting. Thank you. Thanks Wijaya. So ini ada 4 aspek ya. Hiring cycle again, because this is so important, we have to put it here again. Box number 2, full-time worker visa. We're not immigration specialists, we're not immigration lawyer. Cuman if you're working in the US, if you're working in the UK, if you're working in another country, there are some visa elements. Please spend some time understanding that. Usually in school, they have some service to tell you what to do, or usually employer or the company themselves will know what to do with it. But it's always good to do personal reading. And finally, in terms of channels, now we'll spend some time here in channels and networking. So these are 2 important elements. And if you don't mind unsharing the screen, Wijaya. We'll go back to the deep dive mode with the panelists. What he means by channels is that there are many ways for the job opening kayak di koran muncul. Number 2, you can go through your school. Usually, a lot of schools have career development or career service, and relationship with companies. This is another way to consider here. Like, what's your take? Maybe first things first, I'm gonna check in with Alda. International organization, what's the approach untuk apply kayak UN, World Bank atau these supra governmental organization?
Untuk this international organization biasanya itu dari portal, like we have this global portal. Jadi emang kayak nggak bisa pakai jalur belakang gitu kalau kalau gue lihat kan ada certain company you have to be like having a strong network to get in. Tapi kalau untuk like UN type of organization emang semuanya centralized di global platform itu sih. Untuk some programs kayak misalnya rotational program or young professional programs, biasanya target school also kayak HR-nya bakal pergi ke target school untuk kayak kasih sharing session, terus that's how you network with the HR as well. Itu in some sense helping you to understand better about the role. Sama kalau HR-nya kayak ibaratnya vibing sama kita, that could be a good impressions, right, for our first interview. So that in certain steps like might help in the future of our interview process.
Thanks, Alda. And very important to everybody, make sure hiring cycle-nya tahu juga. Like, don't miss out and don't do your application 3 hari sebelum deadline. That's not a good way to do it. People usually spend 100 days or 3 bulan to prepare the materials. Ini penting banget soalnya. This is a common mistake biasa dari 10 student Indonesia that we've meet and we help gitu. 3 apply on time, 7-nya bilang, aduh lupa saya kemarin apply nggak tanya udah kelewatan. So please don't do that. And then another thing is on the school channel. I think Patricia, if I'm not mistaken, you apply directly from school, right? So maybe if you can share a little bit.
Yeah, so I think using your career services in school is very useful because they have coaches there to help you with your resume, with your cover letter. But I think at the end of the day, you and them have the same common goal, just to get you a job, because it's good for their statistics and it's good for you to get your own job. So for me, my school offered, a couple of jobs online in the school portal that we could apply to. And because of that, just because I went through it every single day, I was able to find some jobs that I could apply to. And because of that, they came to the university. They did our first round interviews in school. So I think because they came in with the intention that they want to hire people from this university, then you're going to have a higher chance of getting those certain positions. So make sure to use your school channels and all the resources that you have when you're trying to apply for jobs.
Thanks, Patricia. But sometimes it doesn't apply. Like some schools do not have, some schools or sometimes certain departments do not have these linkages to companies. And to that end, usually we have to go through the online application, or that's bebas. I think Nancy, you got your job through this method, right? Langsung go for it, langsung lewat, skip aja semuanya, langsung apply aja gitu.
So true, Arki. Jadi I actually got my job itu from, actually it's a summer internship that got converted to a full-time job. But when I was applying for my summer internship, I literally go to job websites, go to all sort of like look for all the companies that can help, that can actually sponsor visa, because I think in one of the sites you mentioned earlier, no the visa thing, right? Because if you're applying to a lot of companies tapi company-nya benar-benar cannot sponsor you to work there, okay, there's nothing you can do about that. So you apply a lot tapi apply-nya ke companies yang bisa sponsor you. So yes, I did that. I basically applied to a lot of companies, get a lot of rejections as well. But yeah, eventually made it.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. And ini sebelum lanjut lagi ke the final topiknya yang on the networking side, ini ada beberapa pertanyaan. Let's try to answer. So ini pertanyaan yang di atas nih ya. Should we earn degrees from overseas university if we want to work abroad and in a global company? And where can we find any access or information on overseas job vacancy, especially for Indonesian? Very, very interesting question. The first one is on, kita perlu nggak sih degree luar negeri untuk apply ke perusahaan luar negeri? I think my direct answer is no, actually. And feel free to jump in juga, Alda, Patricia, or Nancy. But from the professional hub perspective overseas, yang in New York and other countries, there are many people from Indonesia who graduated from Indonesia, and they managed to secure jobs in New York. They managed to secure a job in Switzerland, and usually it doesn't matter, including technology company, including like international organization. If you have the qualification, if you have the specialty skill, yes, you can do it. That's what we've been witnessing so far. And in fact, some of the speakers from our past GG series have done this, and they've demonstrated that it's possible. Anything to add, maybe from Alda or Patricia and Nancy? I think Alda would have a good example, karena kan you're in international organization, right? And the portal is global.
Yeah, the portal is global, and yeah, if you have a international degree, it will make much more easier. Tapi nggak harus ada gitu, karena ketika recruiters ngelihat your experience and educations, pasti ada certain skill set yang mereka cari dong. Education is one part, tapi basically how you present yourself and what actually the skill set you acquire, especially currently kayak kalau kita bilang education cuma bisa di Indonesia, tapi kan sekarang ada Coursera, ada online learning, like distance learning, like you actually can get a degree from abroad too, while getting from this platform. Jadi kayak edtech juga udah mulai berkembang. Jadi kayak we could find a way to persuade the HR that although we are coming from Indonesia, we only have Indonesian degree, but we do XYZ to really expose ourselves to global market and global ecosystems. Jadi kayak kita nggak cuman punya mindset yang di Indonesia aja, kayak kita juga update loh sama dunia luar dan education di luar gitu. Jadi I don't want to encourage people like, okay, you have like a local degrees and that's enough. No, honestly, I think it's not enough. You have to find other things like, you know, to equip yourself to really enter international organization requirement.
Thanks, Alda. Okay, so ini last topic and very important is in the networking aspect. One of it kan salah satu cara successful getting a job application through networking. I think maybe 50% of students itu at least dapat interviewnya aja itu networking. It doesn't have to be networking ke orang Indonesia, but can be networking to orang international or overseas. And I think one thing to raise is that networking itu something that I like to share. And again, Alda, Patricia, and Nancy, please feel free to provide your perspective. Networking is actually an art. It may take another discussion. It may take another session like this to discuss like how networking can be possible. Gimana cara successful networking? Cuman very important ya. When you're networking too, you're actually building relationship. You have to be genuine. You have to really or truly establish this bonding with the person. Jadi networking orang pada bilang kan, oh kalau kenal orang tuh bisa dapat kerjaan gampang. But it's not like that. You know somebody doesn't mean that the person will give you an interview. You know somebody doesn't mean the person will give you the job. Karena you have to build the relationship first, build bondingnya. Karena one thing that's bad practice, and we've witnessed a lot among Indonesian and non-Indonesian, ketemuan at Facebook atau at LinkedIn. Terus 3 hari kemudian atau mungkin dalam 24 jam, boleh minta job application nggak? Boleh minta referral nggak buat kerja? You cannot do that. Like it's not. You have to spend time dulu before you go there. Anggapannya kalau misalnya jadi pacar gitu, like baru ketemu 1 hari kan, kalau suka belum tentu langsung ditembak kan, kayak boleh jadi pacar gue nggak? You won't do that, right? So it's the same thing with networking. Please keep that in mind, and I think the more you practice, the better. The better it is, the better you will do your networking. So thoughts, Alda, Patricia, and Nancy.
I think in my experience, I think networking is extremely important, especially in the consulting space, because at the end of the day, you know, we are selling our professional services and we are client facing. So that means that we're going to be talking to people, talking to clients every single day, and you need to have and build those communication skills. So, you know, there's so many people that are applying to consulting jobs every day, every year. So how are they going to set you apart? On top of you having a good GPA, on top of you having great experiences, you need to be able to talk to people. And then part of how they try to assess that is by having networking sessions. So when I tried to apply for my job, right before each round, they would have a cocktail party. And that cocktail party is going to be all the interviewees and all the interviewers who are going to be interviewing you tomorrow. So I had to gather up my courage to reach out to these people and say like, hey, you know, how are you? Like, what do you do for fun? So that I can create a lasting impression for the next day. So the next day, you know, when I was interviewing with the person, I said, oh, you remember our last night's conversation when we talked about X, Y, and Z? He's like, oh yeah, I remember you, Patricia. So by doing that, you have that, you know, extra personal connection that is going to be very useful, not only for your interviewing sessions, but also for the future.
Thanks, Patricia. Very good. And something to keep in mind, orang ada yang introvert, ada yang extrovert. So that is something to consider juga, gimana cara-cara latihannya. So to that end, actually, I think we've covered majority of the topics, which is cover resume. For the cover letter, we kind of skip it, tapi we can share you the materials because it's important, but the other things that we've talked about are more important. Execution sama interviewing. I think we want to spend more time now, actually, just to respond to questions. We have so many questions that we have here, and to all of you, misalnya if we can't answer it, misalnya nggak kejawab, we will write them and then we will write the answer and send you via email these questions. We will answer everything. Jadi jangan, don't feel like we're ignoring. We're not. We will do that. I think question. This is a very interesting question. I would like to invite His Excellency Deputy Minister Pak Agus. There is a question, many questions actually from the audience. So the question is that it's actually on LPDP. And LPDP framework requires for the graduates to return to Indonesia upon completion of their degree. So is there any opportunity or flexibility for them to remain overseas in order to gain certain work experience beforehand?
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, I follows your discussions, and it's very good that a lot of participants are very eager to pursue their degree abroad. I think, as I mentioned, that most of my life I spent for educations. The key to be successful studying abroad is first you have to earn a good enough GPA on the university level in Indonesia, and the second, just make sure your TOEFL score and IELTS is high enough. Just to give some ideas, my youngest son just completed his master from ANU. At the time was the IELTS 7.5. So this is quite good, I think. And now when you get the admission letters from US Broads, then you might apply for scholarship either through LPDP or other resources. When we are talking about the LPDP, I personally just proposed to the LPDP that all the scholarship recipients have to sign a kind of agreement in which the governments have the right to recruit or to assign the best talents and to be assigned either as researchers or lecturer or professional at the state-owned companies or whatever. Yeah. Because as you may know, that the government actually facing a shortage of the expertise as a lecturer and also researchers. So we need to replace those researchers and lecturers who retire. Therefore, I propose the government must have the right to recruit the creme de la cremers. It doesn't mean that all scholarship recipients have the right to become the government official, but the other way, that the government have the right to recruit, to ask the best talents to serve the country. But since the job opportunity is not as much as what we thought, I also personally encourage the young graduate students who get a scholarship or get the other funding support for other institutions. You may seek the professional experience abroad. But of course, as I mentioned, that the government have the right to call you back whenever the government needs help. So this is the proposal that I sent to the LPDP. And at the moment, we just on the process of memperbaiki, just improving the Perpres, enable the government to call the best talents to serve the country. And all the scholarship recipient must feel honest whenever the government call you to serve the country, because believe me, that Anda semua bisa membantu negara with your expertise later on. And talking about the job interview, if I may to contribute, because I also involved in different type of selection committee in several ministers. So the first thing is that you must feel confidence. And to become confident, you must have the competence. Just make sure you have the competencies in certain areas in which you are able to, in which you want to sell it, to promote it. And the second is, yes, you need the CV, whatever, because CV is represent yourself. This is the first step, because all the institutions have a lot of CV from a lot of applicants. Sometimes they are not open the applications, but they also have the bunch of applicants. So usually the first impression is from the curriculum vitae, which represent your expertise and competence. And the second step is when you get the interview. I think from my experience involving in several selection committee, the most important thing is the way you present your thought. And I think it will be determined by how long is your experience and also how good you prepare for the interview. Yeah. The advice that I give to my colleague is just get a practice a lot as much as possible in front of the mirror. Yeah, just speak up your ideas. Just imagine you presenting your thought, your ideas in front of the mirror, and you know your expression and also your gesture as well. Yeah, to strengthen your message. So the first thing is the credential degrees, of course. Yeah. If you have a good or excellence degree from a reputable university, of course, you will be much more confident. And the second is the ability to deliver your thoughts fluently. And this also determined by how frequent you are or how long you have the experience on writing. Because writing and interviewing is two things that is very important to make a success to get a job. If you are good enough in writing, hopefully you'll be good enough in the interview. Yeah. The most weaknesses of our students is they have a difficulty in articulating their thought. I myself sometimes have to go through the draft letter or whatever to my staff to make some corrections. Especially the youngest generation at the time, because they are used to use WhatsApp, whatever, and they are not used to write a formal letter or paper or whatever. So again, I want to know at this point, congratulations to all of the participants. I'm more than happy to support the PPI ideas and to strengthen the collaborations for the future. So please don't hesitate to reach me through either email or through my colleagues here in this forum, that are Pak Asril and Pak Thomas and Bu Mareta. And especially to His Excellency, Ambassador Pak Desra Percaya. Thank you also. And Stephen Marceno, sukses. Saya tidak sabar ingin melihat you all in the driver seats for the next 10 years. Yeah? Sitting in the parliament, in the cabinet members, or as CEO of reputable companies in Indonesia. Good luck and good night to all.
Thank you so much, Pak Agus, for your remarks. I think to that end, we have reached the top of the hour, and I would like to say thank you so much for the participants, Alda, Patricia, and Nancy, for waking up so early today in your time zone and being able to attend this event. To that end, I think one important thing to the audience, again, we will answer your questions. We will email you our responses. Jadi, hold tight, and we'll spend some time to craft the answer, and it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be helpful for you. Hopefully this session is useful and insightful as it was to us in terms of sharing. And I think two things that I would like to remind as well. Number one, we will have an open recruitment for GIPA if you're interested to be part of the team. And number two, several local professional hubs, for example, the US will conduct a career coaching event in a couple of months. And I think it'll be, if you're interested to learn more and deep dive, then please reach out to the respective professional hubs. And to that end, I'm going to pass to Steven Marcelino to close the event. Steven, over to you.
Thanks, Archie, for very apt in handling and facilitating the discussion. I don't have anything else to add, but I'd like to invite Pak Dubes Desra perhaps to say a few words before we wrap up.
Thank you, Pak Stephen. A very inspiring, a very enlightening experience for me to witness by myself, especially from the speakers. 5 short points. First, thanks GIPA for convening this extraordinarily useful and informative webinar. I'm delighted to say that we have achieved the objective of this webinar and learned directly from professionals. We are enlightened, and I do believe participants are empowered. And what is also important, the message, expand the networking by joining GIPA. Second, thanks to moderator Arki Meraksa. I think he is the son of Ibu Mini. I think I might have known him when he was little in New York. I'm very happy. I'm very proud to see him doing the moderator. Well done, Arki. And thank you also to the resource persons, expert, professional, Alda, Ardelia, Nancy Amelia, and Patricia Suyanto. Allow me to highlight one that was mentioned by Patricia, cultural aspect. Indonesians basically are very shy. They don't want to show off their compatibility, their competence. One of the examples that I've often faced, my question is, convince us that you are the best person for the job. I think this is the opportunity, and seize this opportunity to show off, quote unquote. So I think this is very important. The third point, allow me to add also on the importance of having a positive attitude and global mindset. Don't forget, this is also very important, anticipative, adaptive, and agile. Number 4, at the UN, you can also browse the careers.un.org, and you are expected to have profile and preparing an application. So everything will be done online. And what is also important with regard to the UN or international organization, do internship there. That's also very important. Once you have done your internship, you are part of the system. When there is a vacancy, you can easily be admitted to the system. My last point, Mas Stephen, let me quote what Charles Darwin said. It is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones who are most responsive to change. Thank you again. It's an honor, Mas Stephen, for me to be invited. And also, thank you, Professor Agus Sartono. If I may encourage, don't wait 20 or 10 years to be the leader in Indonesia. Grab it now, seize the opportunity. It is open. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Desra. It's certainly wonderful closing remarks, trying to adaptive to change and seize the opportunity today. And that's absolutely what we're breathing and encouraging those who are attending to really absorb and try to implement some of the strategies today. We are at the beginning of 2021, but do not wait till tomorrow. Gotta start somewhere. Because, you know, in a few weeks' time, and then you just realize it will be December 2021 and the year is gone again. But why don't we make the year of pandemic as a really chance for you to pivot and trying to support us? Hopefully, some of the insight from the speakers and the moderator facilitator been super useful for you to really bring your career forward. Either you are still at university with final few years, or those who are already working and thinking for a bit of a career change. I think this is really the time. And allow me, I mean, certainly keep us delighted to be able to host this event in collaboration with 2 of our strategic partners, Kemenko PMK, Korean Ministry for Human Development and Cultural Affairs, and the Indonesian Embassy in London, KBRI London, and also Adikbud London. We're also supported by PPI Dunia, YIPA UK, and IPA USA. Arki did mention that some of overseas professional hubs locally will do their own thing, such as I know in YIPA UK, there will be a collaboration event with PPI London later on. I know IPA USA is going to run career coaching, so please to attend for more local specific insights. All of the deep dive will be done over the next coming months and quarter. On the chat box, there is also an opportunity for you to get connected with GIPA so that we know how we can support you if you would like to be connected to your closest overseas professional hubs. If you are in Hong Kong, in Singapore, or in Australia, and wherever you are, we were hoping to able to connect you with the local one. So don't forget to write a bit of feedback, and then yeah, let's stay connected. If you haven't already followed our social media, please follow our social media. If you haven't followed Pak Desra has the coolest updates and social media. If you want to follow him and all of the rest of the speakers here, I'm sure let's stay connected. About more than 50% of people are actually not connected on LinkedIn, even if they already met them. And I think that's, you know, why don't we start today? We start connecting and following those that you would like to follow. On that note, I'd like to share GIPA's highest appreciation on behalf of the global community of Indonesia professionals to Prof. Agus, Deputy Minister, Pak Desra, to all of the distinguished speakers and moderator facilitator, all of our partners and everyone who've been tuning in. Let's stay in touch. Thank you all. Thank you banget Prof. Agus sudah stay up very late in the evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mas Marcelo. Excellency, Pak Desra. I would like to make sure that all the education attaché, at least in 13 countries, to contact with the BIPA. Yeah, it's part of the Indonesian embassy in 13 countries. Yeah. Sehingga setidaknya nanti all the Indonesian students study abroad itu bisa akses ke BIPA wherever they are. Dan saya kira it's good network saya kira. Good. And congratulations, Excellency Pak Desra.
Thank you so much, Bapak. Yeah.
Terima kasih Pak Dubes Desra.
Okay.
Izin Pak.
Pak Thomas, terima kasih.
Ya Bapak, terima kasih Pak.
Pak Desra jangan lama nanti balik jadi Foreign Minister.
Oh jangan Pak, kasih yang muda-muda Pak.
Enggak.
Matur nuwun Pak Farang.
Mari.
Saya juga sekarang banyak diskusi dengan Pak Dubes di Jerman untuk bicara tentang professional training.
Pak Hafaz ya?
Pak Hafaz ya, betul.
Siap. Matur nuwun.
Mari.
Pak.